Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? That's good. You're all staying out of trouble? Oh, good. I'm not. Okay, so my class, let me go and see what I'm supposed to be talking on. Hold on.
Self-healing and higher self.
Oh, self-healing and, whoa. Self-healing and higher self. Okay. I do so many of these lectures that it's like the topics really don't matter. It's just read them like, oh, that's it. We could do that. No problem. All right. How many of you have been like practicing weird spiritual people for a while? Okay. How many of you were just like starting out? Okay, it's sort of the same thing. Okay, so you all know about subconscious, normal waking self, and higher self, right? Okay, so subconscious is where all that energy is stored up, all the memories from past lives, all the things that we carry around with us. Then we have our normal waking self, which is what we're using to get around here and now, which is pretty much like the dullard of the three. And then we have the higher self. The higher self is your own divine spark. That's the perfected side of you. That's the side that we're all trying to get back to. It's not like there's some weird thing that's untouchable and unreachable, but however, there are a lot of blockages. So as far as I'm concerned, our job on a spiritual pathway isn't about memorization or regurgitation of things or reading tons of stuff, which is all good. It's all about healing your own consciousness so you start getting back to your higher self. So you start reconnecting, because that's where all the good stuff is. That is literally the perfected version of you that has no fear, no limits, no nothing. When I was a kid, I had the pleasure or the curse of growing up with someone who was actually a full master. They spoke 40 languages from memory by the time they were 5. His parents thought he was retarded because he was sitting in the corner and mumbling to himself, and they didn't realize he was saying anything until his father invited an engineer friend over from Pakistan. He said, "Why is your son speaking Farsi?" No, we think he's retarded. He goes, no, that's my native tongue. So this is the friend that I grew up with, and I got to see amazing things and get the absolute bejesus scared out of me a lot of times, because his life and the way he lived had nothing to do with what any of us would consider reality. Because as we live here, we are destined, or we are trapped by going and living through all of our fears, our attachments, what we think is real, or someone who dies and it's like, oh my God, they're gone, I'll never see them again, and you get all distraught, and then someone like it is like, you know where they are, they'll be right back. And it's hard, because the words and what we do are two different things. So real spiritual pathways, real, like there's fake ones, a good spiritual pathway helps you reconnect or start removing the fears or things like that. How many people use the word karma? Everyone knows the word karma, right? Okay, I've dealt with lots of people, and they say, oh, someone stole my car, karma's going to get them. And I'm the first one to point out, because I'm a smart aleck reader, I'm like, what happens if you stole their horse and buggy 100 years ago and karma just got you? Everyone forgets that side of karma. Just because you don't remember it, it doesn't mean that you didn't do stupid stuff. It's always hard when you have to point out to people during a reading, it's like, well, have you thought about this? And even some really tough issues come up, like, abuse or being bullied or whatever, and when you point that out and it comes up in the reading, it's like, maybe you were the person who was not the nice one 200 years ago. It's like, no, that's terrible, it couldn't be. I'm like, that's a major problem with our growth, is because we self-judge ourselves so badly that it actually stops you from self-growth. It doesn't matter what you did or what you didn't do 200 or 2,000 or 20,000 years ago. It matters what you're willing to do in order to just balance it out and not judge yourself. That's the hardest part about what we're doing, is to get over the fears and the limitations about how we see ourselves in relationship to here. Who's got a question? I felt a question. Yes, ma'am.
Why don't we come into this lifetime with all that knowledge? Why do we have to relearn so much?
That is an awesome question. And according to Ed, because I used to ask him the same thing, when this place was built, the whole physical plane, it was built by a set of beings who basically said, hey, everybody, let's go and build a playground because we're bored. And everyone was like, okay, fine. They were supposed to write in this clause, that an escape clause, that we could get out when we wanted to, but they didn't. So once we got to the physical plane and we started experiencing all these things we weren't used to, like physical pain, emotional stuff, ownership, fears, all these things. Every time we experienced something like that, it was damaging our consciousness. As our consciousness became damaged, it split into the 3 levels to protect itself: subconscious, normal, and higher self. But in the beginning, they were all talking to each other, so it was fine. But as the pain and damages kept on coming up, it was like equivalent to pouring sand in between the levels of consciousness, so we lost track of what we were. So every time we come back in, because of that sand in between the levels of consciousness, we forgot. And when we forgot what we are, we started buying into this place as reality. Once we started buying into this place as reality, that's when all the fears come up, because we're all running around in a single lifetime. It's like, I'm not going to be happy unless I get the Cadillac. Oh, I want the house on the beach. And because we think that this is the one and only time. So we started forgetting. That's the only reason why we forget, because of all that blockage in between.
So we choose to forget?
We ended up hurting ourselves enough that we forget. But some people, you'll see there are people all the time coming in now with consciousness or memory. How many people do breath work? Just breathing in and out, rhythmic breathing and stuff like that? Okay, I'm going to let you in the biggest pagan magical secret ever. If you use your breath every time you get upset or anxious and you focus on your breath and you calm yourself down just by using breath and counting 1, 2, 3, 4 out, in, whatever you're doing, if you build up that habit so strongly that you get to focus and you put yourself back, when you are finally on those last breaths in physical life, you are automatically going to do what? Focus back on your breath. When you focus back on your breath in those last moments, all of a sudden you're going to feel 1 heartbeat, then you're going to feel 2 heartbeats, and then you'll feel 1 heartbeat, but it won't be the physical one anymore. But if you leave consciously and focused, guess what you get to do when you come back? Remember. It is the strangest thing, but it is true. It's a simple, and it sounds simple. The thing is to use the tool. And then you can start remembering, because then you start having proof. How many people have proof beyond doubt that psychic stuff is real? How many people get terrified if someone around them gets sick, or you get a bad diagnosis, or someone else gets hurt, or whatever? You can't have it both ways, can you, really? Because if you know that something doesn't stop, and if you truly know that life goes on, why are you upset? Oh, they're suffering. No, they're not. And the reason I can say that, being smug, because whoever has had readings with me today, you already know I'm a smart aleck, because if you understand that it doesn't stop, you can't be upset, but you become afraid for you. Or you become judgmental, like, oh my God, you just lost your cat. You must be horrified and so depressed. They wrote that into their script. Just like every one of us here wrote their lives for a certain script that they would either enjoy, be able to resolve stuff with, or find entertaining. How many people like horror movies? How many people like comedies? How many people like adventure? Okay, so people write their scripts in life according to what they like. So a horror movie person can't judge a comedy person, because they're going to be like, oh my God, it's just comedy. And a comedy person is going to be like, ooh, horror. It's their lives. They wrote it. Don't feel bad for what other people write. It's the hardest thing in the world to learn detachment too, because your higher self is the perfected one who doesn't really care about anything, because it knows that this part is all the illusion. That's what we're moving toward, because that's what finally sets you free. But the illusion is that this is final. But if you work on your magical stuff and you read and you find your fables and your stories and things start hitting home, you start saying, well, yeah, it doesn't end. Or I remember a dream, or I remember seeing a ghost, or I remember doing this. Then you have to get to the point where it actually integrates and it's yours, because that's how you start losing fear. Once you start losing fear and your vibrational state comes up, then you start increasing your awareness and your psychic abilities come up. Because everyone here, no matter who it is psychic. It's just a matter of, have you gotten to the point where you've gotten rid of the blockages to tap back into it? And then whatever karmic load you're carrying, as you're working on that, whether you know it or not, as that goes down, also your energy level goes up. I remember walking along with Ed and we were talking about karma, And any of you from New York? No, huh? Wow, really? Okay. So we were up in Taconic State Park, New York, and I was 21, he was 27. He's talking all about karma, and he says, once you burn off about 50% of your karma, all of a sudden, all this information starts rushing back into your consciousness. He goes, and at that point, that's when you start understanding the illusion of the physical plane. This is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. I still remember it from 40 years ago. And as he finished those words, and I said, oh, you understand the illusion? That means you can just walk through walls. And as I said that, he walked through a flagstone building. He said, like that? I'm like, show off. He goes, part of the job. Now, this isn't like a made-up story. This is what I saw. But this is what you get to. You have to trust yourself. And when you have a dream that you see someone doing something the next day, you see them doing that, it's like, oh, that's just a coincidence. No, it's not. That's your higher self giving you a wake-up saying, you just saw this. This was a psychic experience for real. Then you either like get to accept it or deny it. If you accept it, then your higher self will give you more. Because without acceptance, then you start falling back into sleep, or you start falling back into disbelief. This world is a lot more than we think it is, and it proves itself all the time. That's part of the connection with the higher self. That's the real spiritual growth. It's not a matter of what you're doing or what the rules are or whose rules you're following or what label you have. It's a matter of what you're resolving, what you're taking with you, and what you carry in here. He's going to give me the 2-minute fingers, aren't he?
Yep.
See? I'm a psychic. I knew that. I saw him get up. No, it's the same thing. So this is how I read. My job is to help people get out of their own way. And even my book was all about helping people start reclaiming energy and moving forward. Because more than anything else, if you do stuff that you can prove to yourself that you're healing yourself and it continues, that's how you're going to continue on your journey. Because that's the important part. It doesn't matter what I can do. It doesn't matter what someone else can do. It matters what you're doing for your path to prove to yourself and to continue your journey. Make sense? See, he didn't even have to yell at me. Okay, any questions real quick? Yes, sir. Whew. See, that's a really tough thing. It's like, no, because it's like everyone does it differently, and it's a matter of your higher self saying, oh, now we're going to take on this, this, and this. Or when you plan out your next life, it's like, oh, we need to wait for these people because you owe this or this has to be balanced. So it's different for everybody. Or people ask me, well, what are the steps to studying magic? I wish I could say it goes from point A to point B to point C, but no. It goes from point A, if I'm lucky, point B, and then it goes over to L23, Z26, back to B6, because everybody's consciousness unfolds differently. I saw a hand. No, we have to. I did a video where I'm sitting there laughing with my cigar and say, if you want to find out the final test, if you're coming back next lifetime, walk through the wall. If you can't walk through that wall, you're coming back. Me too. Don't feel bad. All right, so I'm done. I don't want to keep them hanging up. I have business cards in my pocket. Next time we're here, you can make appointments. I'm also website alexandernemo.com and appointments through the website. Thank you so much.